Hello, and welcome to the third annual State of the Water Address. I'm Rachel Silverstein, your Miami Waterkeeper, and although this year looks very different from years past, we're absolutely thrilled that you're still here with us to discuss our priorities for the water this coming year, and to have you help us award the Porter Prize to Paul Schwepp, our outside counsel and partner at the law firm Coffey Burlington. There are over 600 of you RSVP'd for this event tonight. And with everything going on in the world, we're so honored to have you with us. And thank you for your love and dedication to our water. I want to also start by thanking our generous sponsors who supported this evening. Tucci, YSI, the Park West Gallery Foundation, Aaron and Aviva Stauber, and the Rickenbacker Marina. We're so grateful for your generosity. I want to start us off tonight by welcoming David Schwedel, co-chair of our Board of Trustees, to say a few words. Hey, David.
Hey, Rachel. Thanks for that. Hey, everyone. My name's Dave Schwedel. I want to thank Rachel and everybody. For the past 5 years, it's been my honor to serve as the chairman of the Board of Trustees for Miami Waterkeeper. Miami Waterkeeper is an amazing organization. We're a nonprofit whose mission is to protect, defend, and preserve our irreplaceable South Florida watershed by working with people like you, people who care about what's happening in Biscayne Bay, the ocean, and our aquifer. Miami Waterkeeper works every single day to help ensure that the water we drink, fish, and swim in will be here for generations to come. I'm aligned with Rachel and everybody within our organization and everybody that cares about the water. Like many of you, I was born here and I spent my entire life on the water. I can remember times when my grandfather, who was here, my parents, the reef system was completely different. And when I was a kid growing up on Miami Beach, I used to be able to go right in my friend's backyard, take a snorkel and a mask and literally swim in the canals because, believe it or not, our seawalls were like reefs. They were full of fish. Biscayne Bay was teeming with life. And lately what we experience are fish kills in the bay, pollution, fertilizer runoff, sewage leaks. We have to have a swim app that tells us when it's okay to swim for fear there might be poop in the water. I've got 3 kids. I'm concerned for them. I'm concerned for all of us. My involvement and our involvement as a family is from the heart. We're here to support Miami Waterkeeper, hopefully for generations to come. We all need to be concerned about the betterment of our ocean, our bay, our water. It's what makes Miami, Miami. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy day and helping be a part of something that's important for all of us. So thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Miami Waterkeeper.
Thank you so much, Dave, for those awesome words. I want to now welcome our moderator for the evening, Louis Aguirre, anchor for Channel 10 News and the environmental reporter who doggedly followed the fish kill event this summer. He produced Saving Biscayne Bay, the special that played on Local 10 News. We're honored to have Louis here with us this evening and out in the field reporting on critical environmental issues every day and how they impact all of us. Here is a short clip from his special.
Hello, everybody. I'm Louis Aguirre. I'm joining you from onboard Seakeeper's Discovery Yacht Phantom on the waters of our beautiful Biscayne Bay. I'm here with a dedicated team of scientists and researchers from FIU's Institute of the Environment, trying to solve a mystery. In the second week of August, something happened to our beloved bay that's never happened before. A devastating phenomenon that should serve as a warning sign of what we stand to lose if we don't act now and commit 100% towards saving Biscayne Bay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is my honor to be here, working on that special Saving Biscayne Bay, and on last summer's fish kill was probably one of the most, if not the most important stories I've ever covered in my 30 plus years in TV news. It was heartbreaking. It was infuriating, and it was deeply personal. I'm a Miami boy, born and raised. Biscayne Bay is my backyard. I live on Miami Beach. I drive over it every day. I walk across it every day. It is my water park. It is my sanctuary. It is my Zen master. It's hard to imagine living in South Florida without a healthy Biscayne Bay. It simply cannot happen. And so that's why all of us must work together to fight to save Biscayne Bay and preserve it. That's exactly what we're doing tonight. We are checking in to see where we are in this ongoing urgent mission to restore our beautiful bay. And leadership is so important. Without leadership, it simply cannot happen. So I'm extremely grateful to the important work that Miami Waterkeeper does each and every day to protect our waterways and advocate fiercely for the health of Biscayne Bay. We have another fierce water warrior in our newly elected Miami-Dade County Mayor, Daniella Levine Cava, who has always been fighting for environmental issues and water quality issues ever since she was elected to the Miami-Dade County Commission back in 2014. She continues to do that through her leadership, through her new mayorship. She is charting the course that we will take to save Biscayne Bay. We're going to hear from her tonight, and then we will get to our State of the Water address by Miami Waterkeeper's Executive Director and my friend, Dr. Rachel Silverstein. And we have a very important award to give out tonight, the Porter Prize, which will be going to Paul Schwepp, with City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez and Commissioner Ken Russell doing the honors. So without further ado, let's get on with the show and introduce our newly elected mayor, Miami-Dade County Mayor and Chief Water Warrior, Daniella Levine Cava.
I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Miami Waterkeeper's third State of the Water event. I've been to all of them. I'm honored to have now spoken at every State of the Water event so far, and I'm proud to have been a longtime supporter of Miami Waterkeeper's goals for clean water in Miami. And I am especially proud to now join you for my first State of the Water event as your new mayor. Protecting our clean water resources was a top priority when I was county commissioner, and that is a fight I've taken right to the mayor's office. My administration is taking urgent, much-needed action to protect Biscayne Bay by preventing nutrient pollution, repairing our aging water infrastructure, and accelerating our septic to sewer conversion initiative. In just my 100 days in office, which we celebrated this past week, I announced a $20 million joint investment with the state of Florida to fund projects to protect and restore Biscayne Bay. I released the first ever Biscayne Bay report card to provide transparent data on the health of the bay and to engage residents in solutions to protect it. I released the septic to sewer report to help us identify and take immediate action to address priority conversion projects in the most vulnerable areas. I appointed the first ever Chief Bay officer, and I released the county's sea level rise strategy, one of the most forward-looking plans in the country to combat sea level rise. As commissioner, I also worked hand in hand with Miami Waterkeeper on a strong fertilizer ordinance for our county. Now Commissioner Higgins has taken the reins and is bringing this item forward on this month's commission meeting. I look forward to supporting its implementation. As we saw last summer's fish kill event, the need to protect our water could not be greater than it is today, and we must make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. As mayor, I will continue to collaborate closely with Miami Waterkeeper and our other community partners to take urgent action to protect and restore the bay, not only to help our water stay clean, but it will also make us more resilient to sea level rise and ensure that the natural beauty of Miami-Dade County can be enjoyed by our children and grandchildren for years to come. Thank you so much for everything that you are doing for our bay, for our water, for our environment, and thank you for being here and taking part in this important conversation about the future of our community and our water, our most precious resource.
Your passion and your this conversation, and your questions and your comments are very important to us. So please drop your questions and comments into the chat, and we will get to those immediately following tonight's address. So let's get on with tonight's State of the Water address. Let's bring back my friend Rachel. Rachel, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited that it is now time for the annual State of the Water address. This year, we're going to revisit last summer's unprecedented fish kill crisis, discuss Miami Waterkeeper's response to that crisis, and our priorities and solutions for Biscayne Bay. We'll then take your questions, which, as Louis mentioned, you can drop in the chat, and then we'll close by awarding the Porter Prize. Welcome to beautiful Biscayne Bay. It's our backyard, and it's the jewel that we've built our city around. It's home to Biscayne National Park and the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve. It's one of the best sailing and bone fishing locations in the world, and it brings billions of dollars to our economy every year, supporting real estate and tourism. And especially this year, our beautiful waterways have brought the community an escape from quarantine and a sense of freedom and calm. Because so many people use Biscayne Bay, but only 2 sites were being sampled weekly, we started a program to test recreation spots in Biscayne Bay where you were using the water the most. This is Sam. She's our environmental technician, and she monitors the water in Biscayne Bay every week so that we can let you know whether or not it's safe to swim before you go to the beach with your families. On Monday, August 10th, Sam was sampling at Morningside Park, and she started to notice a few dozen dead fish in the water, and she told the team about it. This is what she saw. These little flecks of white are actually floating dead fish. And this is Catherine Micasell. Her and her swim group, Dolphins and Rainbows, were also out that Monday morning. They swim there almost every week. But they also quickly started to notice that something was wrong. They started to see white flecks in the water, and they quickly began to realize that they were surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands, of dead and dying marine life. They reported the situation back to Miami Waterkeeper. And this became the first community report of what we would realize was the largest recorded fish kill in Biscayne Bay in history. And I've talked to people who have studied the bay for decades, and nobody can remember anything like this happening. We were quickly flooded by dozens and dozens of reports from the public of dead and dying marine life all over northern Biscayne Bay. They were washing ashore on our shorelines. And our beautiful Biscayne Bay turned from a sparkling jewel into a graveyard for marine life. We were also starting to get reports that wildlife was behaving abnormally. It was congregating in unusual groups, and fish that usually live at the bottom of the bay were actually at the surface, gasping for air. After a few days of these fish kill reports, we started to then get reports of the water turning into thick mats of algae. This is what the water of beautiful Biscayne Bay had turned into. The smell was overwhelming, and we had never had anything like this in our bay. This was an indication of a serious imbalance, and this was the tipping point that Miami Waterkeeper and other scientists had warned about for years. Miami Waterkeeper's team quickly sprang into action. Because of our network of amazing people who love our water, we started to receive hundreds of reports about where the fish kill was happening in real time. And Colin, our program manager, he started tracking all of these reports and put them into a Google map like the one that you're looking at now. This became vital to scientists and agencies to figure out where to deploy resources and where the worst hit areas were. You can see in this time-lapse version of the map that the fish kill started that Monday at the mouth of the Little River near Morningside Park and then spread out from there. We also had our teams out sampling the water. This is Dr. Elizabeth Kelly. She's our water quality research manager. And here she's holding a YSI EXO. It's an amazing piece of water monitoring equipment that we're so thrilled to have in our scientific arsenal. It's been invaluable to our weekly water quality monitoring. And during the fish kill, it gave us unbelievable information about what was going on in the water. In addition, we collected samples of the algae and we sent it to the state in order to see whether or not it was a toxic variety. And we kept up our testing for bacteria every day. The levels were going up and up and up as the fish started to decompose. The situation was getting even worse. So many people reached out and they wanted to know what they could do to help. We knew we had to get the dead fish out of the water. But would people really be willing to show up in the middle of a pandemic and clean up decomposing fish? The answer was a resounding yes, and we had dozens of people all over the bay picking up the shorelines, getting rid of these dead fish, and everybody pitched in to help. You showed up for the bay, and your love for the water was very clear. The Fertile Earth Foundation even volunteered to put out compost bins so that the fish could be safely disposed of. And Kayla, our marketing manager, and her brother rented a U-Haul truck to pick up these bins and to bring them to City of Miami parks. This is Miami Commissioner Ken Russell, who we'll hear from later in the program, disposing of a stone crab that he picked up while on his paddleboard. People really love our bay. From even day one of the crisis, we started to set up daily briefing calls with the scientific community and other agencies like Miami-Dade County and the incredible team at the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve, and Todd Krall and his group at the Institute of Environment at FIU. Everyone pitched in to work together because the flow of information was coming in so fast. And these calls really helped us to organize and to be strategic about where we were sampling and deploying resources. These daily calls have now turned into monthly coordination calls that we're still hosting every month. We also participated in panels like these with officials and leaders like Senator Pizzo and Secretary Valenstein of DEP, among many others. We also worked to put together a strong coalition consensus statement from the scientific community and other organizations about exactly what had happened here. But we were still feeling helpless and frustrated that there wasn't more we could do about the struggling wildlife we were seeing. So during a late night brainstorming session, our general counsel Kelly and I came up with a kind of crazy idea. And that was the idea that possibly the county's fireboats could use their hoses to aerate the water and to bring emergency oxygen. We called Port Director Juan Curla, and the next morning the fireboats were on scene to help, and they were deployed in the areas where we were getting the most reports from the public. We also called City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, who agreed to convert the city's stormwater pumps into life-saving emergency aerators. Preliminary data from FIU, DEP, and suggest that these interventions actually worked just in the immediate areas that they were deployed. And this may have given marine life a few extra days to survive until the conditions changed. But I want to be very clear about this. We never want to have to do this kind of thing again. Our bay should not be on life support. What we need to do now is to address the underlying fundamental problems that led to the fish kill and to fix them. So let's now switch over to talking about what those are. So why did this happen? How did we get pushed over this tipping point? Well, like us, fish and other wildlife need oxygen to breathe. But during the fish kill, scientists recorded that oxygen levels in the bay actually reached 0% overnight. The fish literally ran out of air. But how do bodies of water end up with low oxygen levels in the first place? Well, there's one word for that, and that's pollution. Specifically, nutrient pollution. Nutrient pollution are things like nitrogen and phosphorus that you might put in fertilizer on your yard to make your plants grow. Well, when they get into the water, they over-fertilize the microscopic algae that's there, and they can turn clear water brown or green and lead to algae blooms, and in extreme cases, fish kills like the ones that we saw. In northern Biscayne Bay, there are 4 major nutrient inputs: septic, sewage leaks, stormwater, and fertilizer overuse. And we'll go through all of these in detail and what we're going to do about them. So these 4 inputs into Biscayne Bay increase the amount of algae and bacteria in the water. And that uses up a lot of oxygen that competes for fish and wildlife. It makes it hard for them to breathe, especially in the summer months when the water gets warm, and so it naturally holds less oxygen anyway. If things get really bad, we can have fish kills like the ones that we saw. And as the fish start to decompose, that increases the nutrients and bacteria as well, which can lead to algae blooms, and the cycle continues. These algae blooms and nutrient pollution can also result in seagrass die-offs. And seagrass makes oxygen for the ecosystem, so it can protect it from these low oxygen conditions. But unfortunately, in Biscayne Bay, and especially in the area where the fish kill occurred, we've lost over 80% of our seagrass in just 5 years. Just north of the Julia Tuttle Causeway, this was a satellite image from 2011. That darkened area north of the causeway is our seagrass. In just 5 years, as I said, over 80% of it is gone, as you can see in this image. That leaves the ecosystem extremely vulnerable to low dissolved oxygen events when there's a lot of pollution present, like in this area. The good news in all of this, though, is that we know exactly what's causing the nutrient pollution and we know how to fix it. So addressing these core inputs has been and continues to be our priority for clean water. Now let's revisit the 4 major inputs and we'll go through each one of them and how they can be addressed. So just to pause and recap for a minute. The fish kill was caused by low dissolved oxygen caused by septic, sewer, stormwater, and fertilizer. Let's start with fertilizer. So fertilizer overuse is probably the lowest hanging fruit on this list to address because it doesn't require big infrastructure investments to fix it, just a change of behavior. So we've actually been working for the last 2 years on a fertilizer ordinance specific for South Florida. The basic tenets of the ordinance include not fertilizing near a waterway and staying about 15 to 20 feet away from a storm drain or the water, and not fertilizing during the summer months from about June to September. In South Florida, it's so rainy in the summer that almost as soon as you put the fertilizer on your yard, it's rained and it washes away into the storm drain or into a canal before the plants can even use it. So you might not be helping your landscaping and you might be inadvertently contributing to pollution issues. We've already successfully passed 7 of these ordinances in Miami-Dade and Monroe counties, including in the city of Miami, the village of Key Biscayne, the city of West Miami, Miami Beach, North Bay Village, and most recently, Coral Gables. As Mayor Levine Cava mentioned, we worked on this fertilizer ordinance with her when she was a commissioner. And now Commissioner Higgins has carried it forward. So we're very excited to get to report today that it's actually on a committee agenda at the county on Tuesday at 6 p.m. So one great way to help this initiative is by signing our fertilizer ordinance petition on our website. Our goal for this year is to have strong fertilizer ordinances in place in Monroe, Dade, and Broward counties. Septic tanks. We have over 100,000 septic tanks in Miami-Dade County, and we have known for over 70 years that they're polluting Biscayne Bay. But right up to today, you can still put in a new septic tank in urban areas right next to the bay and surrounding canals. Now, septic tanks need at least 2 feet of dry ground between the bottom of the tank and the water table to properly sanitize the waste. But because of sea level rise, over half of the septic tanks in the county now don't have that necessary 2 feet of dry ground because the water table is actually higher. That's bringing pollution right into our waterways. The solution to this is to hook these septic tanks up to the sewer lines. But you can't really just hook up to a sewer line as a homeowner. And like many of you, I'm on septic at my house too. What it's going to take is a major investment by the government and this support of this community to expand and upgrade our sewage infrastructure to get rid of these septic tanks. Hooking up our septic to sewer is expensive and it won't happen overnight, but it probably is the single best investment that we can make in our future here in Miami. We have to have proper waste treatment. And the problem's only going to get worse and more expensive the longer we wait. So our goal is to eliminate septic tanks in urban Miami-Dade County. We can do this by prioritizing tanks that immediately abut sewer mains, and there's over 12,000 of them. And then we can start working on the ones that are already compromised by sea level rise. And right now, we can make mandatory inspections of septic tanks and disclosures for septic tanks so that the ones we have work better. We're so pleased that the county has made septic to sewer funding their top priority this year. Sewage leaks. Leaks and spills in Miami's sewage infrastructure is another source of pollution entering our water. Much of our sewage infrastructure is considered antique or over 50 years old. It's cracked and pipes literally burst under our feet, like this spill under a bridge in northern Biscayne Bay that a kayaker spotted. And that is why we work so hard to train the public to observe, document, and report pollution through our Thousand Eyes on the Water program. We need your eyes on the water. Now, Miami-Dade is already under a federal consent decree or a mandate to have our sewage lines fixed and upgraded. We need to really make sure that that work is completed well and that other parts of the system are also fixed, especially as we work to transition more and more septic tanks onto the sewer system. And finally, stormwater. Stormwater is another major source of pollution and also of flooding. Now, any rainwater that isn't absorbed into the ground goes into the storm drain and right into the canal or the bay, and it carries with it chemicals, grease, pet waste, and debris. And our stormwater also needs to be upgraded to work during sea level rise conditions, because now that the water level is higher, the water sometimes moves backwards up the storm drain system and carries bay water and ocean water into the street. Our current system just isn't working anymore. We also need a lot more locations to absorb and clean the water naturally, like having it run through the ground into a park or a swale or through a mitigation wetland before it gets into the bay and our canals. This is another vital infrastructure improvement that's crucial for our ability to live in Miami and to keep enjoying our beautiful water. Now, the fish kill might be over, but these pollution sources are not yet fixed. And summer's coming, and with it, the likelihood we could have another fish kill. We could be facing a yearly fish kill as a reality in Miami if we don't take swift action now. That's why we need your help to get these goals across the finish line. As a small nonprofit, we rely on support from our community, and together we can protect our bay. So here's a few ideas. You can take our Thousand Eyes on the Water virtual training. It takes about an hour and it's free, available on our website. You can learn to observe, document, and report pollution to us. You can also become a member of Miami Waterkeeper, and you can go into our fertilizer campaign and sign the petition. Then you can tune in for our new Lunch and Learn series we're going to launch, where we're going to go into all of these issues in a lot more detail. And then we'll get into corals and dredging, FPL Turkey Point plant, and many other issues that we're working on that we didn't cover here. Together, we can keep Miami sparkling. So now I'm going to welcome back our moderator, Louie, and I think we have time for a couple of short questions. Again, drop any questions you have into the chat.
Yeah, so if you guys would like to participate in this conversation, we encourage that. Again, you guys are part of the solution, so we encourage you to drop your questions and comments into the chat. I want to talk about marine debris, Rachel, because I see it every day. As I said, I live on Miami Beach. I walk across Biscayne Bay each and every day, and I see the enormous amounts of plastic pollution that are constantly on a daily basis entering our water system. And how are we addressing that, and what's being done at the county level to actually mitigate the enormous amounts of pollution that we're seeing in our waterways?
Yeah, so you asked a great question about marine debris coming through our stormwater system. And
are we there? I think Rachel might have frozen.
I can still see you. Can you hear me?
Rachel, I think we have some technical difficulties on your end.
We're good, Louie.
Yep, I can hear you now. Okay, let's try it again. Good.
Okay, perfect. It wouldn't be a virtual event without a few technical difficulties. I didn't quite see the question that popped up, but I know Louie asked about.
All right, let's try this. Let's try this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who are the different agencies and organizations responsible for protecting and preserving Biscayne Bay?
I don't know if I'm the one that's having the technical difficulties or if Rachel is. So I'd love some.
Hi guys, I'm going to carry on and answer these questions, and we can keep having the questions coming. So keep dropping them into the chat. But the first question is, who are the different agencies and organizations responsible for protecting and preserving Biscayne Bay, and do you work with other groups to fulfill your mission? So that's a great question. There are lots of folks working on critical Biscayne Bay issues, and we do our best to try to work with everybody. So some of the agencies that have jurisdiction over Biscayne Bay, so starting at the federal level, we have NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. At the state level, there's a couple of different groups. So there's FWC and DEP. And DEP has a large presence on site for Biscayne Bay because Biscayne Bay is a designated aquatic preserve by the state, which is a really high level of protection that it's given. And so we have an amazing team that manages the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve, and they have an incredible sampling and monitoring program going for Biscayne Bay. And then at the county level, we have DERM, and they run all of the county's environmental programs, and they also do monitoring in Biscayne Bay. And they have one of the longest data sets available. It's, I think, 40 years. It started in the 70s. And so there's really amazing information available from data sets that long. And they have, of course, ongoing monitoring happening now as well. And then there's a lot of organizations that work on Biscayne Bay issues. So, Debris Free Oceans works on a lot of debris issues, and so does Volunteer Cleanup. There's Tropical Audubon Society, and the list goes on and on. We have actually also started, in addition to a scientific group that meets once a month, we also now meet with the organizations on a bi-monthly basis to coordinate all of our priorities and to keep each other, really well informed on what's going on and how we can help each other to advocate for different issues. So out of this fish kill has actually come a lot of good collaboration. And so that's been kind of a silver lining. Do we have any other questions? Septic to sewer, what is the cost, and will the county and city still allow new septic? Where can we go to find out more? Another great series of questions. So the county has estimated that getting all 100,000 plus septic tanks onto the sewer system is going to cost several $1 billion. 3.3 billion is what they said. But we really have to think about that broken up into different parts, so we don't have to come up with all of that money immediately. But there has been a problem over the years with septic to sewer funding in that a lot of the burden has been on the homeowners to come up with the cost of hooking yourself up to the sewer lines. And that's really impossible for most people because the costs are pretty high. So because of that, we really need a new system of funding these septic to sewer conversions. So that's why we're so pleased that the county's made that a priority for them to get funding for that this year. But it's gonna take a lot of political will and a lot of community support to make that investment and to support our elected officials who make that a priority. The county and the city still do allow new septic tanks even today, and there are some areas where there simply, are no sewer lines to hook up to yet, and so those need to be put in. And this really happened because Miami developed faster than the sewer lines were built. So the idea was always, let's allow this development right now, and then one day when we build the sewer lines, we'll hook up all these septic tanks and get rid of the septic tanks. But that really never happened. And so that's why we have this issue today. And a lot of people think of septic tanks being in rural areas, on farms, where they're not close to any kind of infrastructure. So it's surprising for a lot of people when they learn how many septic tanks are really in urban Miami-Dade County, really ringing northern Biscayne Bay. Where can you go to find out more? Definitely check out the Miami Waterkeeper website, go to campaigns, and then check out our septic campaign that we launched this year. It was the result of a lot of research by the team, and particularly by one of our master's students who's now graduated, Aaron Stauber. So you'll find a lot of really, really interesting resources in the history of the septic system in Miami. Education is key. Have you considered partnering with schools to inspire our youth? What education initiatives do you have? So great question. We absolutely agree that education is key, and that is what will motivate behavior change in our community. So we do partner with schools, and one of our signature programs is our Junior Ambassador Program. So this is a high school environmental leadership training program. And high school students can enroll. It's the course of a year. They meet in the classroom and they learn advocacy techniques like public speaking. They learn all about all of our water issues. And then the other half of the course, they go out into the field, they get their hands dirty, they do cleanups, they help restore ecosystems. They now also have a boat trip where they learn how to water sample on board of a boat. It's a really fantastic program. If you know any high schoolers who would be interested, definitely let us know. I think in August applications open and then it runs the course of the school year. So this cohort is now wrapping up. We were able to host the program this year, even though it was semi-virtual and definitely distant. So everybody stayed safe, but they were able to participate in this program. We also have lots of curricula. So if you are a parent looking for something to do with your child, check out our education resources on our website, and those can give you lots of ideas about how to talk about environmental issues, activities to do, and ways to learn about the community and about our bay. What policy initiatives do we have for preventing sea level rise? So this is a tough one. So sea level rise is caused by climate change, which is, of course, the burning of fossil fuels and putting too many greenhouse gases into the environment. So preventing sea level rise takes, any sort of policy that mitigates carbon emissions. So public transportation, reducing emissions from buildings, using solar and alternative energies, things like that. A lot of people think that even if we stop burning fossil fuels and stop emitting carbon today, we still have some degree of sea level rise baked into the system. And in Miami, of course, we've already experienced about 6 inches of sea level rise. So we, even if we do everything right in terms of dealing with carbon emissions, we still need to figure out ways to deal with the sea level rise that we've already caused, that's already here in Miami. But there are lots of ways that we can work on policies to prevent sea level rise too, and those are really closely tied with preventing climate change and reducing our carbon emissions.
Hey, I seem to be having the tech difficulties on my end, so I want to move the program along. We have a very important award to give out today. The Porter Prize is Miami Waterkeeper's highest honor given annually to a member of our community who has gone above and beyond for the environment. To introduce this year's recipient, let's bring back Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Louie. So last year, we awarded the first Porter Prize to our attorney and dear friend, Jim Porter, and we named the prize after him. And this year, the award is all the more meaningful because Jim passed away on February 19th after a 2-year battle with brain cancer. Many of you know how much Jim meant to us at Miami Waterkeeper. When we started out and had literally nothing, Jim believed in us and he still represented us. And it's made all the difference for our organization. We're so happy he got to be with us at the event last year in person. And we'll always miss Jim and we'll honor him every day by continuing this work. Jim had a deep love for our waterways. And Katie Cleary, a filmmaker who was working on a documentary about our Port Miami dredging litigation, made this short video of Jim in his element with his dog Leah and his fishing rod in his hand. Join us for a minute of reflection and enjoyment of our water with Jim. Last year, when I told Jim that we would be giving him an award, he immediately said, well, I don't deserve it. It should be going to Paul. So I'm glad that before Jim passed, we got to talk to him about the fact that Paul would be receiving the award this year in his honor. Paul and Jim, along with Gary Pappas and Eric Litzenstein and others, comprised our incredible team of attorneys who gave us thousands of hours of their time and expertise with no expectation or guarantee that they'd be compensated. And all this in the midst of their own busy law practices. All of our legal team calls would start with reports about which fish or snake or bird was seen in that weekend's adventures. Many of our actions were really hard fought and they required exhausting mediation sessions. But I don't think I'd be betraying anything mediation confidential by saying things sometimes got heated. But Paul was never flustered, he never lost his cool, and he remained steady and level-headed no matter what kind of arguments were thrown our way. So much so that Jim nicknamed him St. Paul the Patient, to which we nicknamed Jim St. James the Irritated. Like Jim, Paul had worked on almost all of our litigation with us, and not just with us on issues of water, but Paul's also championed critical land conservation work, like working to stop the 836 expansion into the Everglades, and also the destruction of some of the last remaining pine rocklands habitat. Paul's also a big transportation advocate. So he serves his community for the betterment of the land, the water, and the people of Miami. Paul believed in us and our mission and our organization from our earliest days, and we would not be here without him, but neither would the tens of thousands of corals that he helped save or the acres of wetlands that he's worked to protect. Now, please welcome City of Miami District 2 Commissioner Ken Russell for a few words about Paul. We'll then follow that with a short video presentation of the Porter Prize with Francis Suarez earlier this week at City Hall. We'll then hear from Paul himself and we'll close the event. Thank you again for joining us and congratulations to Paul.
Hey there, Miami Commissioner Ken Russell here, wanting to wish congratulations to Paul Schwepp on receiving the Porter Prize. I was there earlier this week when it was presented to Paul, together with Waterkeeper and the City of Miami Mayor. Paul is such a great example of community leadership and environmental stewardship. This is such a well-deserved award for him. I first met Paul before I was an elected official. I was just a community organizer, environmental activist, fighting with the city about contaminated Merry Christmas Park in front of my house. Paul stepped in to help teach the neighbors and I what our legal possibilities were, what we should be asking for from the city, and really helped us achieve our goals environmentally for our community. Since then, and after becoming an elected official, I've really relied on Paul's leadership through Waterkeeper to pass successful legislation, including regulating styrofoam, glyphosate, and one of the state's strongest fertilizer ordinances, which is here in the city of Miami. The most recent success was an ordinance which can shut down construction sites that do not control their runoff, leading to silt plumes in the bay. We couldn't have done any of this without Waterkeeper, and Waterkeeper couldn't do it without Paul. So I'd just like to say again, congratulations. The City of Miami's door is always open for new policies and legislation, actions and budget items that we can use to work together with Waterkeeper and improve the Bay and our health of all of our water. The state of the water will be strong with your help. Thanks and congratulations again, Paul.
I'm Mayor Francis Suarez from the City of Miami. I'm here with Rachel Silverstein from Waterkeeper, and I have the distinct honor and privilege of being able to present the second annual Porter Prize to someone who is a magnificent advocate for the water, who's a dear friend, who is a gentle soul and a good human being, and someone who has worked with Commissioner Russell and myself, along with Waterkeeper, for a variety of different initiatives, mostly sponsored by the Commissioner, to make sure that this beautiful bay that we have is maintained in a way that our children and our unborn grandchildren can appreciate it for years to come. So in recognition of all your work, Paul, we want to thank you and we want to present you with this second annual Porter Prize.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, so very nice, and thanks to the mayor, both mayors, to Commissioner Russell, to Rachel, to Miami Waterkeepers for all of you for being here and for your commitment to Miami-Dade County and the Bay. I am just so impressed with Waterkeeper and how over just a very short period of time, it has become the premier advocacy organization for water quality protection in South Florida. So hats off to you, Dr. Silverstein, and your team, for the board, for all the work they're doing to keep our community's most precious resource, our bay, the nearshore water, clean. It is bittersweet to get this award. We lost Jim Porter on Friday, February 19th at the age of 64. And it's important to remember, Jim was born in Frederick, Maryland on December 14th. We shared a birthday. He moved to Miami as a child, and he fell in love with the Bay. He graduated from Miami Palmetto Senior High School in 1974, and he was a double Seminole. He graduated from FSU undergrad and FSU Law, Order of the Coif, and then he practiced for Squire Sanders and Holland the Knight before forming his own law firm. He was an avid fisherman. He was a lover of the water. His twin kids, Kevin and Kathy, who he was extremely proud of, grew up on the Bay, and he was so excited to see Kevin sworn into the bar. And thank you, Judge Altman, for making that happen. Jim was involved in every significant environmental battle in South Florida in the last 15 years. The Panther case, FPL cooling canals, the Port of Miami dredging case, the Port Everglades dredging case, 836 extension dispute. He was passionate about his commitment to the environment, and that reflected itself in his dedication of his professional abilities on environmental cases. I was privileged to be co-counsel with Jim, and I learned so much from him. He was an immense legal talent, and it was humbling to work with Jim Porter. We both had the same philosophy, which was, we didn't create this earth, we don't own it, we have no right to wreck it. When you're involved in environmental litigation for green organizations, you know you're always the underdog. The moneyed interests are on the other side, and they will always have more lawyers and more consultants and more experts. The line in Hamilton comes to mind: outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, outplanned. But every so often, somebody comes along that kind of helps level the playing field, that tips the scales of environmental justice. And Jim was that kind of person. He made a difference. He left a mark. He will be sorely missed by all of us, most especially by his wife, Carol, and his kids, Kevin and Kathy. So it is a tremendous honor to receive the Porter Prize. And thank you, Miami Waterkeeper, for honoring his memory, and for all of you do. It's appreciated very much.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We loved having all of you. Please stay engaged with Miami Waterkeeper. There's so many ways to get involved. The best way to stay up to date with what we're doing is to follow us on social media.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. As we all reiterated time and time again, this is on all of us. It's up to all of us to save and fight to restore Biscayne Bay. And you being a part of this conversation was so important. It's been an honor to be here with you guys tonight. Let's fight together to save Biscayne Bay. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Louie, and congratulations, Paul.